Hello and welcome to the Find Focus podcast, a podcast that is all about deep work, productivity, and the impact technology has on our business and daily life. Your host, as always, is me, Martin Bödecker, the creator of the Find Focus website and distraction blocker for Mac and Windows, which you can try for free at findfocus.net. Hello, Jason. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit how you got into this whole entrepreneurship world?
Yeah, so I had always had it, like this little bug in me to want to make money. I had realized that at least with money, which is how I started out, is the way that I could have nice things and have things I wanted. And then that kind of turned into money buying me options. So for me, options are being able to work when I want or have the things I want without asking permission for them. Like if I wanted to take a vacation, I wouldn't have to ask permission from my boss. And then that later turned into, entrepreneurship as a lifestyle. Again, going back to working when I want to and me being able to dictate how I did things and where I got things. So the start actually happened as far as elementary school. So essentially being able to take baseball cards, which I was collecting as a hobby, and trade those and sell those with other kids in my school, which later turned into comic books and later turned into like candy and Cokes. Past that point, once I graduated high school and I started working for other people, I really got into this sense of, I'm not able to do the things that I want to do, and I have to report somewhere and be somewhere, and I've got these responsibilities. Not that responsibilities are bad, but they weren't the responsibilities that I wanted. And so by the time I got to working at 16 through about age 25, I always had this side hustle or side gigs. And at some point, it just really hit me that from what I did at a young age in school and what I was doing as side hustles is what I really enjoyed doing. And then that got into me and clicked with me that I needed to be an entrepreneur. So I definitely have to say it started out with, first just liking to have money and then learning how that money could buy me options and afford me a lifestyle. And then after working for other people and seeing all the flaws with working with other people, as an employee, really embracing the entrepreneur lifestyle where I could do the things that I wanted to, how I wanted to do it. And then, of course, things snowballed from there into success. Because there's a lot of people who are entrepreneurs that don't have success and they are still not able to have options and a lifestyle. But once I was able to touch that, that really set it off.
So did your side hustle transition into real business, or how did you get started? When did you quit your job and decided to quit your job and pursue entrepreneurship full time?
Sure. The side hustles early on were always service based, and that's probably the fastest and quickest way that somebody can become an entrepreneur is to offer a service to somebody else. The other fast way is to find a product and sell it on Amazon or sell it somewhere else and flip it. But for me at that time when I started, which this was all the way back in 1996, at that time I couldn't really flip something on the internet because there wasn't that possibility. So I offered services, and my services at that time were web design. And then from web design, I noticed that there was a need for web programming. So I could build these websites, but the forms didn't function and they weren't interactive. So I learned how to do that. And then once the sites were interactive and I was selling them to people, I really seen this growing need for marketing. So at that time, there really wasn't Google at that time, but there was the Yahoo directory, there was DMOZ, and there was a bunch of other places. And I was playing around with how to get marketing and traffic from those websites. That led me to buying clicks on GoTo at the time. So I got into pay-per-click marketing. Google was rolling out, and being a search engine instead of a directory was a major shift. So I learned SEO. So I was always in services first. And once I really got my feet wet with services as an entrepreneur, and I shifted over to that full time from not being an employee, my side hustle, because I always have a side hustle, even now, my side hustle turned into having a product, so a software as a service. So at that point, now I was not an employee with a side hustle of selling web design. Now I was a web designer, programmer, and marketer with the side hustle of a software as a service. Now that I've got a software as a service, I've got another side hustle. But it always seems to evolve that way. And I think the major shift that had me go from employee to entrepreneur was many times I was forced into it. So even though I realized I love being an entrepreneur and that's what I wanted to be, it was always scary to think, I've got this fledgling business as a service provider. It brings in this amount of income. It's maybe a little bit less than my job income, or maybe it matches my job income, or maybe it's just a little bit more. But as an entrepreneur, in 30 or 60 days, I always thought to myself, well, this could dry up. And at least with a job, I've got this recurring paycheck and I've got these benefits. But what ended up happening to me was I learned along the way that a job is no security whatsoever. So with my generation, I listened to my parents and grandparents tell me, work a job for 40 years and retire. So there's this built-in security, even from a young age. But I was forced into it multiple times. I don't want it to make it sound like that I was a bad employee, but, several times I was fired or several times I was laid off. And for me, at least, it would take weeks, if not months, to find another job. So my side hustle as a web designer would supplement that income. And I kind of eased into it, but I eased into it because I was constantly being forced. I remember I worked for a company for several years, built all their e-commerce websites. They were doing millions of dollars a year. I was only making maybe $28,000 a year at that time. And after the third year mark, I asked for a raise, and they basically told me, well, we don't have money to give you a raise. And I thought that was crazy because I just helped this company in those 3-year time span make over $20 million from my efforts alone. So I left. And when I left, 6 months later, they came back begging me to come work for them, and they were able to have the money to pay me that raise. So that's when I kind of learned that things aren't always what they seem. But from past that point, I would either get laid off because they were downsizing. Maybe I got fired for something just because I was stupid and young. I think what broke the camel's back in all of this was two events, one of which was when my daughters were born. I have twin daughters. They were born a week later. I was laid off from the company that I was working with, and that really devastated me. I learned that there is no security, especially in a critical time when you just started a family. A few months later, I ended up getting a job with a great company. It was my dream job. I was actually doing digital marketing for an affiliate network called Media Trust at the time. And it was everything I ever wanted. Great pay, great benefits. I got to work from home. I was doing the work I loved. And a year and a half into it, some venture capital people came in and they wanted to basically close down all of the remote offices. And I got thrown into that. And I was making this company millions of dollars actually with affiliate marketing. And when I got laid off, I remember I got laid off on my birthday and I was going on vacation. It was one of the first vacations I ever took. And I was going on vacation. It was my birthday. I got the call that I was getting laid off. And while I was on vacation, I had to ship my laptop back to that company. And it was a real low point for me. And I thought, I've been making this company millions of dollars with affiliate marketing. Why don't I just take the last $1,300 to my name that I had? That's $1,300 in savings. And I can't cancel this vacation. I've already paid for things, so I'm going to enjoy my vacation. But I'm going to take the last $1,300 I had, and invest that into Facebook ads and affiliate marketing for myself. And those first 2 weeks were kind of rough. It ended up doing better, and by the end of the year, I already made more than 7 figures in profit. And then it just really hit me. I can really do this full time. I don't have to have the crutch of a job or an employer. And that really set it off, right there, having that success, and it'd be a massive success at that.
So you're talking a lot about learning. How do you approach learning? Because like you, like even back then, like when you got started, like with pay-per-click and stuff, like I think it's really not something you could learn. Like there's not a lot of things you could learn at university, for example. So how do you approach learning in general?
Sure. I'm the type of person, I have to touch it and I have to do it. I can read a book, I can read a manual, I can watch a YouTube video to kind of get my feet wet and know the basis in the world about it. But I've got to physically touch it. I physically got to do it. For instance, we recently bought a new vehicle. The electronics on these vehicles change massively. It seems like every couple of years. I'm used to just having a simple car with no electronics, no cruise control. It's just real simple. And then you get into a new vehicle and you've got this center console in the front that's touch screen and it's got these maps and everything. And I can go through the manual, I can read it, I can watch some YouTube videos and kind of learn a little bit more. But until I actually touch that screen, go through all of the options and learn it, I'm never really going to learn it myself. So when it comes to learning, whether there's resources out there or not, there definitely wasn't any when I started out back in '96 for what I do now. It really came down to trial and error, touching it, going over it on purpose again and again and again. And even when you're doing things purposely and you're going through the motions, it's not enough just to do the really simple stuff. You've really got to kind of stretch out of your box and out of your comfort zone and push those limitations a little bit. And an example of that is, I'm really comfortable with PHP and MySQL and HTML and CSS, but that really doesn't, that fits me in my comfort box. But if I want to learn something new, like say object-oriented programming, or if I want to learn maybe something new like Redis, I'm going to have to go out of my comfort zone and install that, learn it. And what I find is if I start learning something like Ruby, or if I start learning something like Go, the Go programming language, that ends up what I learned there actually makes me a better PHP programmer. Now I know these new skill sets, but it also improves my old skill set. So I think purposely doing something, getting your hands dirty with it, and then pushing past your comfort zone is how I at least learn. And I think that's a great model for other people as well.
Yeah, I talk a lot about, you should stop, consuming so much and instead, create things and do it yourself. And that's where you actually learn. And before we started recording, you briefly touched like going through a phase of productivity porn. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I fell into this trap where I don't want to say it was self-confidence. I think it's just questioning, which I think all people do. I was questioning, can I do better? Can I be better? There were, that especially comes when maybe you're not hitting certain goals or certain success levels you've built up in your own brain. So when I first started out, I'm like, I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm not driving a Lambo like everybody else says I should be, because I'm reading these other blogs and so forth. And I start questioning myself. And at that point, I'm like, well, maybe I can do better. Maybe I can do more. And I start looking into productivity. And I start reading things about, you should go to bed early and wake up early, that the early bird gets the worm, or you need to do Pomodoro, or you need to do getting things done, or eat that frog. Forget a lot of these names already, but there's like these certain ones that you can do built in with Evernote. And then there's these ones where you've got 3 rocks and you go through your day like that. So like I'll spent a ton of time. I'm talking about years, literally going through productivity systems and learning about new productivity systems, putting apps on my phone, putting apps on my MacBook, putting apps on my desktop. I tried it all because I thought I was trying to find a magic bullet. And I was smart enough to know that there really wasn't one magic bullet, but I was just trying to find this system that I thought would work. And after testing all of these apps, all of these systems, I realized that all I'm doing is wasting my time. I'm not creating blog posts that could help me. I'm not creating products that could help me. I'm not pushing out as many services. I'm trying to learn all these new systems. So there's a lot of time taken away trying to find out about these systems, trying to learn them, trying to use them. When they don't work, trying to use them again because I thought maybe I did it wrong. And then really at the end, what I realized is it's okay to be me. And being me is finding what works for me. And what works for me literally is just a pen and a legal pad or a pencil and a Moleskine book, writing it down, even if it's a piece of junk mail that I've got and it's an envelope and I just write it on the back of the envelope. That's what works for me. Because there's certain parts of my day where I'm a manager and I'm going through each hour and checking lists off for each hour. But then there's the part of me that is a creative person where I'm programming or I'm writing blog posts. I'm doing creative type things that aren't hourly task checkoffs like a manager. And what I found, at least for me, and I think it might be true for most people, when you're in a creativity mode, that hourly checklist or just a checklist in general doesn't work. And I think that's where a lot of systems fail, because a lot of systems in my mind are built for somebody that's a manager checklist type person. And even though I love checklists, there's a certain area for it. When I start writing or programming or coding, none of that is valid, because I find that it takes a good at least half day to push out worthy code, a worthy blog post or a podcast or anything else that's creative. And if you're locked into a system like Pomodoro, or you're locked into, I think it's called bookending or time boxing, and you're booked into other things that are similar to that, it doesn't work out, and then I get frustrated. So I found out it's okay to do my own system and not listen to somebody else, actually find out what works for me and not worry what anybody else thinks about it.
Yeah, great. And I think a lot of people, especially when they want to build a business, should listen to that advice and just do what's right for them. And the more people I interview, the more say, you have to do what's working for you and not for everybody else. So talking about Lamborghinis, I think you and me are members of the Fast Lane Forum, and a lot of people listening to this podcast want to start a business. So what's some advice you would give somebody who's just starting out, maybe just still attending college, or wants to transition from a corporate job into starting a business?
Sure. I think there's a lot of people that worry about, what do I sell? When it comes to people that I've talked to about software as a service, it's always like, well, what programming language do I use? What service do I even offer? There's a lot of these questions of basically, how do I do something? What is the best pick? And for the most part, for a very generic answer like that, there is no right answer that anybody can give you. You talk to somebody that sells on Amazon, they're more than likely going to tell you, well, get into e-commerce. You talk to somebody that has a software as a service, they're going to probably persuade you to do something similar where you get a recurring income, off a particular person. You talk to somebody that's a web designer or a digital marketer, that they might sway you into services. So when people ask these questions, what you're really getting is just somebody's individual opinion. It's hard to find somebody that has maybe done very well in all of those areas that can objectively say, well, I've done this, and that. Here is what I'm going to tell you. And again, that's going to be based on their success and their opinion. So I think when you're starting a business, the main thing is this: don't listen to anybody else. And I know that sounds very counterintuitive, because there's so many people that say, read these books by these people who are very well known, these podcasts, these TEDx talks, these forum members. I think that's good for a foundation, and it's good to be knowledgeable. But I know that there's people that'll take that to the extreme, and they'll live off somebody's every single word. And what I just want to tell people is this: just don't listen to anybody. Even me right now on this podcast, don't listen to me. Do what feels right for you, because what I found is that when you listen to other people, or you listen to other people's models or ways of doing things. Again, going back to this productivity porn with how these systems operate, like GD, well, like getting things done, or Pomodoro, you're fitting something into those boxes. And when something in your life doesn't mesh well with those models, you're going to be unhappy. So my best advice is this. I gave a talk at the summit earlier this year, and I've got a couple threads on the forum and a couple threads in different places where I get down to the root of what works well for me. And I think that advice will help somebody starting a new business, because I went through things like finding out my mixed Breyer's personality type, my Enneagram type. And then from those systems, I was able to build out core values. And from core values, I was able to build out a mission statement and goals. And then from those mission statement and goals, I was able to look at, well, what kind of business really fits me? Now I write a Kindle book. Should I get in software as a service? Should I be a service provider? Now I'm looking at what my personality type was and my Enneagram, and how that matched my mission statement and my core values and my goals. And now I can look at my goals and say, well, you know what? My goals say this, and selling on e-commerce doesn't fit those goals. And maybe being a service provider doesn't fit those goals either. But what does fit that goal is maybe writing Kindle books or doing software as a service. So now I've really narrowed down what my business should be. From that point on, I can start working in a more focused area to say, well, my goals and values are really around Kindle books. Now the question might be, well, what kind of Kindle books do I want to write? A lot of writers, if you go on the forum or you look at their different subjects, they're telling you to write fiction for romance because that's what's hot and that's what's selling. Well, one of the things that I live by is if it's hot now, it's already too late. It's already ruined. For a lot of aspects, that's why SEO is so hard right now. That's why selling on Amazon is so hard right now. That's why cryptocurrencies are kind of hard right now, because there's so much interest in them that policies had to be changed. So, what would fit me in Kindle books would be writing nonfiction, would be writing self-help. And then somebody might say, well, what topics do I write in self-help? Well, what interests you? What do you know? There's a lot of people that pay ghostwriters. There's a lot of people that think that they've got to write what's hot in self-fiction or any topic. And I'm like, what are you an authority of? What do you actually know? Now, being an authority doesn't mean you're a guru, but what do you know that you think the common layperson doesn't know that you can add value to? And then do that. That's what you're an authority of. So that's what I would tell somebody starting out, is really find out what fits you, and then that kind of narrows it down. And then look into certain things like what you might be an authority of, what you might know some of. And even though you're not a guru or making $1 million on it, you can still be an authority if you know more than the next person and can add value.
Yeah. So let's imagine we're starting out and we have built a product or a service. Like, what's your take on getting leads and selling it? Like, you're an expert in pay-per-click and SEO. So what would you recommend? Like, if you have this product ready, like Find Focus for me right now, where I'm trying to get the word out. So how would I go to promote it?
Yeah, probably the easiest place to promote it would be in your sphere of influence. And that kind of ties into what I just mentioned about authority. Even though you might not be the most well-known person within a particular subject, you still might be an authority, and you still probably have a sphere of influence. For somebody like you or me, our sphere of influence might be the fast lane forum, because we interact with people there, constantly. So I would start there. You've also got a thread there, so you started there, but you work on your sphere of influence first, and then those people are going to give you feedback to be able to improve your product. They're going to be your test bed for pricing. So maybe 1 week you've got pricing at this price, or you've got a freemium model that is 7 days, or maybe you change it to lifetime 3 weeks later. So that sphere of influence is definitely going to give you feedback to improve your product. They're going to be your test bed for any split testing or theories that you have. And then if your product is really good, they're going to tell other people. Even if they don't tell other people naturally, you might go post it on Reddit, or you might go post it on Product Hunt. And then you can go back to the Fastlane forum or your sphere of influence and say, hey, I've got my product here. Can you all interact with Product Hunt and upvote it, or can you leave comments on Reddit? And then from that point, it's going to start growing. When I built my first software as a service, or even when I was doing service, providing a service with web design and selling pay-per-click marketing as a service, I always went to forums first. And I went to the forums where I had a sphere of influence. And that got me by when I was struggling. That got me by when my first SaaS got launched. It got me by when my last SaaS got launched. And then from there, it just naturally grows. And the way that it naturally grows from there is that other people start talking about you. They talk about you in areas that you had never even known about. Like with SerpWoo, we do not do any pay-per-click marketing. We barely do any SEO at all. Our SEO is basically just writing blog articles that are helpful for people. But over the years, what I've noticed is as our product has added value to people, people have gone to conferences and talked about us, and we never knew about it. We would later find the slide deck on, I forget the service now, LinkedIn's bought it, but the slide deck service where you can upload your slide decks. And we would get these alerts, and we'd go look and like, oh, somebody talked about us at all these conferences, or somebody's talking about us on Reddit, and they're talking about us on other places. And then that kind of gets into people doing social media for you. And, I think once you see that traction rolling, that would be a perfect opportunity for somebody to invest more in SEO, because at that point, other people are kind of doing the work for you, and they're building links to you, and they're talking about you. Now you start pushing out a lot more content. I mean, you should have been doing content anyway, but now this is where you take it to the next level. And then you start doing pay-per-click right at that point too, because now that's when, if you know the concept of a flywheel, this is the point in your marketing where that flywheel is getting enough push and enough circulation that it's going to start going on its own. And when you step up your SEO at this point and your pay-per-click, you're just making that spin faster. It's already going on its own now, but you're making it spin faster. If you try to do that before the flywheel is really starting to go and gain momentum, it's a lot harder, because people start saying, they see your pay-per-click ad early, and they're like, I don't even know what this company is. I don't even know this brand. I don't even know how to say this brand name. So you've kind of got that barrier. There's no trust yet. But once that flywheel starts moving, there's inherently some trust there, and that makes the rest of your marketing easier.
Okay. So you mentioned a lot of forums. I like nowadays, most of these discussions, at least it appears, go to Facebook. How do you see Facebook? How do you see like forums? Because for example, I really like the Fastlane forum, and Facebook is just way too noisy for me.
Yeah, the shift is definitely moving to Facebook groups, Slack, even Telegram for like crypto traders. So, I had the benefit, at least when I started out, even all the way up to about 2013, forums were still a mainstream for a lot of people, especially digital marketers, especially people that were into certain hobbies and areas. So forums were, a good standby. And as Facebook groups have gotten more popular, people started migrating to Facebook groups. And Facebook groups are big, but I see this, especially with digital marketers. I really can't comment in other areas, but I know at least with digital marketers and areas where the digital frontier is getting pushed, people are moving away from Facebook groups in that area, and they're going to like Slack channels. They're going to Skype groups. They're going to like Telegram. They're going to these other areas. And I'm finding, at least with digital marketers, that forums are getting abandoned. Facebook groups were filled with spam, and they're kind of filled with spam in a lot of places. Like when I was looking at Amazon and selling on Amazon, I thought, I'm going to join the Amazon group on Facebook so that I can keep abreast of all the new information. And I literally spent hours each day applying to groups. Like there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of Amazon groups. Then as I started weeding through them and looking at my news feed, it's all spam. So once you cut all the spam out, there's still a ton of Facebook groups, but they're abandoned. There's not anybody posting now. And so it's hard to keep abreast of where things are moving. But if you can find out where your target market hangs out, it could be anywhere from forums, but it could be Slack channels now, it could be Skype groups. It could be literally anywhere. And because it's all spread out, it's hard to focus on one and put your message there, because now you got to put your message everywhere because everything's spread out.
Yeah, makes sense. So since you're this expert on SEO with your SaaS company, SerpWoo, what is if somebody is starting out, what's the main or the most important thing with SEO? I listened to your podcast about SEO, and you talked a lot about consistency. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, SEO changes so much. I've been lucky enough that I got a real early start in the internet age, and I've been able to see Facebook come into the scene and all the changes that Facebook went through. And I kind of understand why all those changes happen, like the Florida update and the May Day update and a lot of these other updates and algorithm changes. And, somebody new jumping in, I think they could read a lot and they can maybe experiment, but they're going to be behind because they don't know what happened in the past and the reasons why that happened, because that kind of helps you understand how the algorithm works today, why they did the changes, and maybe where they're looking at by understanding the past. So I think with SEO, what's important right now at this moment, at least, is definitely consistency. And that's consistency with everything about your SEO game plan. So whether that's writing content and you're keeping it consistent on frequency of updates, you're keeping it consistent with the length of these articles and the elements that they contain, like multiple images, consistency with your link building. Say you publish an article, and normally the consistency with the algorithm is that you're getting X amount of links per day to your site and to your articles. That needs to stay consistent, because when there's a drop off or there's a spike up, that's definitely a sign to Google that something has happened. Maybe the drop off might be that a large site decided to remove all of your links because they thought your content was spammy. Maybe the spike up is because you've paid another webmaster to, throw thousands of links at your site. So when you're not consistent, that kind of gives warning signals to Google. It'll give it to other search engines as well. The consistency also plays into things like, if you start a new website and you blog or update for 1 year and it doesn't work and you give up, that's definitely a red flag, because with our findings in SerpWoo, we went through all of our data on billions and billions of data points, and we were able to look at all of the top 20. And one thing we found that was really interesting was any website that was less than 3 years of age on their domain age wasn't ranking in the top 20. Now, there were some outliers that were out there, but we're talking about less than 1%. But for the rest of the SERPs and the majority of the SERPs, if the domain age was less than 3 years, it wasn't ranking on the top 20 of Google. And this was for spammy keywords. This was for e-commerce keywords. This was for brand keywords. Not the brand itself, but maybe another website trying to rank for another brand name. This was for everything. So if you're not consistent and wanting to go long term with your website, it's probably not going to rank. And even if you are consistent, but you're in those first 2 years, 3 years, you're maybe not going to see any success with ranking on Google unless it's a really long tail term that probably not many people are searching for anyway. Maybe you'll rank there, but you're not going to rank for the stuff that really drives. So I think consistency across everything is definitely key. The other key thing is just content right now, because content will get you links, content will build trust. Content's what's, if you've got analytics installed on your site, that's where Google is looking at your bounce rate per page, and then that's going to factor into your ranking as well. Just content in general, whether it's on YouTube and whether it's on your own website, no matter, or even if it's a podcast, getting people to talk about it and have something to share and building those links up. Again, comes back down to consistency with writing and pushing out content.
Yeah. Is there anyone in the digital marketing space who does this really, really well that you may maybe look at sometimes?
Yeah, I think when I say that they do it well, what I mean is they execute on the plan well. Maybe it's not done well, maybe with the quality or the reasoning behind it. But I think somebody that does it well with the execution would be somebody like Neil Patel, would be for a while was Noah Kagan, which I really haven't kept up with his website and stuff right now, like OK Dork and AppSumo. But I know that Neil Patel does. Brian Dean at Backlinkio does as well too. There's not a lot of content coming from Brian, but the content he has is really well done as far as like the depth and the questions that it answers. But when I look at somebody, say like Neil Patel, there's just a ton of content that comes out. I mean, if I was to just guess, because I know that one person cannot do this alone, he's probably got a team of writers or an agency that helps him write, guest bloggers that write. I mean, he probably has 20 articles a day just presented to him, and then it's just picked out, what's going to go where, and if it's going to go on his website or somebody else's. I think that's where the larger companies that are executing well are doing, is they're producing a ton of content. And then even though they're producing it, it may not be on the website, but they're producing a ton, and then they're going through that content saying, okay, this is the best out of the 20 articles today, let's post that. And then because they're doing that, they always have content to put on their website daily, if not weekly. They've got a lot of content that they can go through to say what's the best content. It's not somebody maybe like a lone person that has to sit here and think, well, what do I write about? And is that even good enough? Is this title good enough? Can I even get this written in one day? And then it repeats the next day. So I think somebody who executes well would be those particular marketers. But there are people who produce great content, but maybe it only comes out once a month or maybe once a quarter. Viper was a good example of that. Their website, the articles that would come out weren't that frequent. But they were huge articles that went in depth and talked about topics that nobody else was really talking about, because they weren't the bland vanilla writers just throwing out anything. So you've got people that do it well on execution, and then you've got people that do it well on quality, but it might not be as frequent.
Yeah, so I think it comes back to do what's right for you and try to be consistent with that, and find your peer group, whether that's a forum, whether that's starting your own Facebook group, or whatever it might be for you. There's no right or wrong. Some things do work, and sometimes the complete opposite does work as well. So you have to find what's right for you.
Exactly. Yeah. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. It's just depending on, what way works best for you.
Yeah. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you'd like to share with our audience?
I don't think there's anything you haven't asked me, but I do want to point out to people, I know there's going to be people listening or watching. They're questioning everything from whether they're productive enough or they've picked the right business model. Maybe it's certain life choices. My mom told me that I needed to work at a job for 40 years, or my dad told me that I needed to find a really nice girl who can cook, and just anything thing that somebody has told you, it's great to take that information in. It's great to take that information and dissect it for yourself. But when it actually comes to the decision-making part, people just really need to listen to themselves and listen to their gut. And even if what your gut is telling you, or maybe what you're thinking about doing, goes totally opposite of what maybe your mother has told you, maybe your professor has told you, or somebody on a forum has told you, that is completely okay, because listening to other people, I've realized that's just their opinion. Maybe that's what somebody else had told that person, and that person really doesn't know that as truth. It's just something they're parroting from somebody else from years ago. You really just need to make your own decision, and be comfortable with that, and actually be proud of that, and stay with it, and stay with the flow, and just have confidence with it.
Yeah, awesome. I wrote like on Quora a post like a while ago, and the question was like, what are 3 practices to stay young? And I did not even know what I answered like for the first 2 practices, but the third one was just do not care, do what's right for you, and that was viewed by got more than 1 million views. So that's something that resonates, and that we cannot repeat often enough. Especially for entrepreneurs. So
exactly.
So thank you for the interview. How can people find out more about you and what you do?
Sure. Well, probably the 2 easiest ways. One, if they're a member of the Fastlane Forum, or even if they're not, they can go to the Fastlane Forum and find me there. Under my avatar or my screen name, which is eLiquid, which has nothing to do with e-cigarettes, but it's eLiquid. And then if not there, they can definitely come to SerpWoo, not only just to find me, but to read the articles about digital marketing. They can even sign up for a free account there. It's free lifetime. It's not free as in limited abilities or time. But they can check that out. And of course, there's lots of articles there that I've written, and they can reach me there through the help desk or through email as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the interview.
Sure. Thank you, Martin.
Thanks for listening to the Find Focus podcast. Remember, if you want to eliminate low-value tasks like browsing Facebook or watching YouTube videos and replace them with high-value tasks and create deep work habits, you can try Find Focus for free at findfocus.net.